The 70 Apache warriors had been watching Clayton Rivers since dawn, their horses motionless as carved monuments against the ridge. Each warrior held something that made Clayton's chest tighten with dread, a single black feather, dark as winter shadows, unlike anything he'd ever seen in Apache hands. Yesterday, this same stretch of desert had been empty. Yesterday he'd made what seemed like a simple choice. He'd given his only rifle to defend a dying Apache child from wolves, leaving himself weaponless in hostile territory, 20 miles from Tucson. Now those 70 warriors sat in perfect formation, their black feathers catching the harsh morning light. The child Kaya she'd whispered her name through cracked lips was nowhere among them. Clayton had expected war paint. He had expected arrows aimed at his heart. Instead, they simply watched him with the patience of buzzards circling prey. The lead warrior, distinguished by gray, threading his braided hair, raised his hand. The others shifted their mounts into a new pattern, deliberate as pieces on a chessboard, following rules Clayton had never learned. No aggression marked their movements, only ceremony. Clayton's empty holster felt heavier than the rifle it once carried. His water was nearly gone after walking through the night, his boots worn thin from desert stone. The warriors began their descent from the ridge, still holding those mysterious black feathers, their horses' hooves creating a rhythm like distant thunder. Behind him a sound made Clayton's blood freeze. Singing, but not the war chants he'd heard before. This melody carried celebration, mourning, and something else that raised every hair on his neck. When he turned, his heart nearly stopped. Emerging from a canyon he hadn't noticed was a procession of Apache women and children, led by an elder wearing an elaborate headdress of eagle feathers. And there, walking slowly but steadily beside the elder, was Kaya, alive, conscious, and staring at Clayton with an expression that mixed gratitude with something that looked disturbingly like pity. The child's presence changed everything. Clayton realized his simple act of protection had triggered something ancient, something that followed laws he didn't understand. The black feathers weren't symbols of death, they were markers of debt. And whatever that debt demanded, it would require more from him than he'd ever imagined possible. The elder approached with steps that suggested both ceremony and judgment. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of decisions that affected entire bloodlines. The child Kaya limped forward to translate her young voice, carrying words that would reshape Clayton's understanding of everything. My great-grandfather says the white man who gave his war tool to protect Apache child has honored the ancient law of the weapon gift. You bound yourself to our people without knowing, and now the binding must be completed or broken. Clayton stared at the assembled tribe, at the 70 warriors with their ominous feathers, at the child whose life he'd saved, now offering him words that sounded like a sentence being read. The choosing ceremony would begin at sunset, Kaya explained. Until then, he was their guest. After sunset, he would be either their brother or their enemy. There was no third path, and the desert stretched empty in all directions, offering no escape from the choice he'd unknowingly made when he pulled that trigger to save one small life. The Apache village materialized from the desert like a mirage made real. Hidden between towering red cliffs, traditional dwellings formed intricate patterns that spoke of generations planning for survival. What struck Clayton most was the complete absence of fear. Children stared at him with open curiosity rather than terror. Women nodded respectfully as he passed. Men studied him with expressions that suggested they were measuring something invisible. Kaya walked beside him, her recovered strength evident in each determined step. You wonder why no one shows hatred toward a white man in their sacred place. She observed her English, careful but clear. Clayton nodded, his throat dry from more than thirst. The thought crossed my mind. Hatred is for enemies. You are not yet enemy, and you are not yet family. You exist between worlds, which makes you sacred until the ceremony reveals your true nature. They approached the largest dwelling, its walls decorated with symbols that seemed to tell stories Clayton couldn't read. Inside, The elder waited on a woven mat surrounded by objects that made Clayton's stomach clench with recognition. His rifle lay among them, but now it was decorated with painted symbols and wrapped with sage bundles. The elder gestured for Clayton to sit. When he spoke, his words carried ritualistic weight that needed no translation to convey their seriousness. Kaya's voice dropped to a whisper. The weapon gift ceremony has 3 tests. First, you must prove your gift came from genuine protection, not from seeking advantage. Second, you must demonstrate understanding of sacrifice by making one yourself. Third, you must show you value tribal welfare above your own survival. Clayton felt cold despite the dwelling's warmth. What kind of sacrifice? The elder seemed to understand English better than he spoke it. He lifted a ceremonial knife, its blade catching light from the entrance. When he spoke in Apache, Kaya's face went pale. The sacrifice is a test of trust. You must allow yourself to be bound and placed where only tribal mercy will save your life. If your weapon gift was pure, they will protect you. If it was false, you die as punishment for stealing honor through deception. Clayton stared at the knife, understanding now why the 70 warriors had seemed so expectant. They weren't here to fight him. They were here to judge him. The elder dipped his finger in red paint and marked his own forehead, then offered the pot to Clayton. The ceremony was beginning whether Clayton felt ready or not. Outside, the sun had moved considerably westward. Clayton had perhaps 2 hours to decide whether to submit to tests that could easily kill him or attempt escape across open desert, while pursued by 70 mounted warriors. As Clayton took the paint pot with trembling hands, he thought about his sister's final words before consumption claimed her. She'd told him that real courage meant doing right, even when fear consumed you. Some things she'd said were worth dying for. He painted the symbol on his forehead, sealing his commitment to face whatever the ceremony demanded. The sun balanced on the horizon as Clayton found himself seated in a stone circle, hands bound behind his back, with rope stronger than leather. The entire village had gathered, their faces illuminated by torches casting dancing shadows. The 70 warriors formed an outer ring, still as death, their black feathers moving gently in the evening breeze. 5 elders sat facing Clayton, each wearing elaborate paint designs, marking their status as judges. The questioning began, deceptively gently. Why had he been in Apache territory? Clayton explained about searching for new grazing land after drought destroyed his small ranch. Where was his family gone, he told them honestly. Parents dead from fever, sister from consumption, no wife or children. Then the questions became surgical. Had he helped Kaya hoping to gain something from the Apache people? Clayton denied this explaining. He'd expected nothing but trouble. Did he consider himself heroic for his kindness? I don't know if I'm good, Clayton finally said. I just know that watching a child die when I could help felt wrong. A female elder spoke sharply in Apache. Kaya translated reluctantly. She asks why you gave your rifle to protect me, instead of using it to force my people to care for me. Why trust Apache mercy when you could have demanded it? The question cut to something Clayton hadn't fully examined. Because forcing help isn't protection, it's just another kind of violence. The male elder leaned forward, speaking a single challenging sentence. Kaya's eyes widened as she translated. He says you condemned yourself to walk 20 miles through dangerous country with no weapon and little water. Was this kindness to the child or punishment for some guilt you carry? Images flashed through Clayton's mind, his sister's face as she died. Because he couldn't afford medicine, his parents' graves abandoned when the ranch failed, all the times he'd chosen safety over righteousness. Maybe both, he whispered, surprised by his own honesty. The 5 elders conferred in voices too low to hear. Finally, the great-grandfather stood and addressed the crowd in ceremonial tones. When he finished, Kaya approached with tears streaming down her face. You have passed the first test. The elders believe your heart was true. She paused, wiping her eyes. But now comes the test of sacrifice, and what they ask. Even I don't know if I could do it. Two young men approached with a wooden box, setting it beside Clayton with reverent care. When the elder opened it, Clayton's blood turned to ice water. Inside were 5 arrows, each marked with different colored bands and painted symbols. The elder lifted them one by one, speaking in ceremonial tones that carried across the silent village. The test of sacrifice requires you to choose which member of our tribe will face danger to prove your worthiness. Kaya said, her voice barely audible. 5 people have volunteered to risk their lives for your ceremony. Each arrow represents a different trial, dangerous but survivable if the person is skilled and blessed. Clayton stared horrified at the arrows. I don't understand. I'm supposed to choose someone else to risk death for me. That's not sacrifice. That's cruelty. That is exactly the point, Kaya replied. The test measures whether you'll allow others to suffer for your benefit or whether you'll find another way. Around the circle, Clayton could see the 5 volunteers. A boy barely 16, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, a scarred warrior, a girl who reminded him painfully of his dead sister, and a man with wife and children visible in the crowd. What are the trials? Clayton asked, dreading the answer. Kaya pointed to each arrow. Red means crossing Devil's Rapids at night. Black means entering the mountain cat's den for a stone from the deepest chamber. White means climbing the cliff face no one has conquered in living memory. Yellow means walking alone into enemy tribe territory and returning with proof of peaceful contact. Blue means, her voice broke, allowing rattlesnake bite and trusting traditional medicine to save your life. Each trial meant almost certain death. Clayton was expected to choose which innocent person would die for his acceptance into a tribe he'd never asked to join. He closed his eyes, hearing his sister's voice. Some things are worth dying for, and protecting innocent people tops that list. When he opened his eyes, Clayton looked directly at the great-grandfather. I won't choose an arrow. If someone has to face these trials for my acceptance, it will be me. All 5 trials. Tonight. The great-grandfather's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his ancient eyes that might have been respect. The crowd murmured in amazement, and the 5 volunteers looked at Clayton with expressions ranging from relief to awe. But it was the warriors' reaction that stunned him. As one, they removed the black feathers from their horses' bridles and raised them high, creating a forest of dark plumes against the star-filled sky. The great-grandfather rose slowly, deep emotion marking his weathered face as he studied Clayton's resolute expression. When he spoke, his voice carried across the silent village with absolute authority. The 70 warriors responded with a sound Clayton had never heard, a low rhythmic chant that seemed to rise from the earth itself. Kaya stepped forward, tears streaming as she translated. He says no man in our people's history has ever offered to face all 5 trials alone. Such willingness to die, rather than harm innocents, proves a heart already Apache, whether blood runs Apache or not. The elder continued speaking his next words, causing visible shock among the assembled crowd. Kaya's voice shook. He says the trials are ended. You have already passed the test of sacrifice by proving you would choose certain death over possible harm to others. The weapon gift law is satisfied. You are declared brother to our tribe. Clayton felt confusion mixed with relief. But I haven't actually done anything yet. I just said I would. The elder smiled for the first time, and through Kaya explained, the trials exist to reveal the heart, not cause death. A man who chooses certain death over possible harm to others has shown his heart completely. No further proof is needed. What happened next took Clayton's breath away. The 70 warriors dismounted in perfect unison and walked toward the stone circle. As they approached, each knelt and placed his black feather at Clayton's feet, then removed something from his belongings. Clayton watched in amazement as offerings accumulated, crafted knives, hand-woven blankets, carved jewelry, and finally, one warrior brought forth Clayton's own rifle, now wearing new Apache decorations, symbolizing honor and respect. The gray-haired lead warrior stepped forward, speaking careful English. "White brother, we came expecting to witness judgment. We expected to escort a new member to our mountain camps or carry a body for burial. We did not expect to meet a man worthy of our people's highest honor." "What honor?" Clayton asked, overwhelmed. The warrior smiled. "You are invited to carry protection of 70 families. Each feather represents a warrior's pledge that your safety matters as much as his own children's safety. Each gift represents a household that will shelter, feed, and defend you as long as you live. This has been given to only 2 white men in all our history, never to one not born among us." The great-grandfather approached and placed both hands on Clayton's shoulders. When he spoke, his voice carried sacred ceremony's full weight. Through Kaya, he said, "You came as a stranger who gave a gift. You leave as a brother who received 70 gifts in return. Your rifle bears honor markings ensuring safe passage through any Apache territory. But more, you have shown our people that some white men understand courage and sacrifice's true meaning." Clayton took his decorated rifle, feeling the weight of 70 black feathers tied to the barrel and warmth of acceptance he'd never expected. As he prepared to leave the village, the entire tribe gathered to see him off their faces, showing respect that would have been impossible hours before. Kaya approached one final time. "Where will you go now, brother?" Clayton looked toward the horizon where his old life waited, then back at the Apache village where he'd discovered something about himself he never knew existed. "I think I'll head north toward the mountains. I hear there's good grazing land up there, and it seems I have some new neighbors to get to know." The 70 warriors mounted and formed an honor escort as Clayton walked from the village. Their presence felt like protection, family, and home all at once. The black feathers on his rifle caught starlight, marking him forever as a man tested by fire and emerged greater than he'd ever imagined possible. As they crested the first ridge, Clayton realized the desert no longer looked empty to him. It looked full of possibilities, full of people who understood that true strength meant protecting others, full of a brotherhood, earned not through blood, but through choices that revealed the soul's true nature. The black feathers whispered against his rifle as the wind picked up, carrying him toward a future he couldn't have imagined when he'd made that first simple choice to pull a trigger in defense of a child's life. Sometimes Clayton thought the smallest acts of courage opened doors to the largest transformations, and the man who'd entered Apache territory as a desperate rancher was leaving as something far more valuable, a brother protector and keeper of ancient laws that bound hearts across all the boundaries men tried to build between them.